unaware of my worth, benign and absurd, silent and unlearned. I fell down to the earth. I was cursed and immersed, but I rose up from the dirt, free. I am a man in a no man's land, and a native son of my sovereignty. I'm forming a line, I'm making a stand, and I will not comply.
You are listening to nbaa.us radio, the National Bail Agents Radio Network, and we are here with Michelle Esqunazi, the Queen of Bail from New York City, a lady who I've learned to respect quite a bit, someone who, so you know up front, has helped us here in New Orleans. She coughed up $2,500 to make sure that we could get to the data from the risk assessment instruments that are being used or were being used in the city of New Orleans, and the same instruments that are being used all over the country. And she realized the importance of this data. Michelle, welcome. How are you today?
Thank you so much, Matt. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you this evening.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. It's Saturday. You're kind enough to take time. We're all very busy, and I'm glad that you're doing this. The point of the nbaa.us radio is to give bail an opportunity to speak, to be able to speak clearly and tell, other people in bail what we can do to speak to our legislators and let them know, what missteps can do to the community and to public safety, and we try to educate. So I've asked you to come here today so you can spread some of your wisdom around. Can you tell everybody a little bit about Michelle Esqunazi, the Queen of Bail?
Well, thank you. I've been in the bail bond business in New York City for over 20 years. I founded our company, our family company. The name of our company here in New York is Empire Bail Bonds. And much like a lot of the bail companies throughout the United States, ours is a multi-generational business. And me, my niece, my nephew, my son, my daughter, my other niece, we just have tons of family in the business, and we're kind of pillars of our community, and we do everything that we can to try to give back. And bail's been very good to us, and we're very good to our communities, and we love what we do.
Well, Michelle, I said when I first started that you helped with a project that we have in New Orleans concerning the data behind the risk assessments, and basically what we've received as a result was all of the data relative to the predictions made, every prediction ever made by the Vera Institute in New Orleans from the day they started to the day they finished.
Amen.
Well, that data is one thing, but your willingness to help, your willingness to reach out, and I know I've watched you help in Delaware, I've watched you help in Connecticut, I've watched you help out west, down south, I've watched you fly all over the country. What can people do to help you?
Well, this session in New York State is going to be a bloodbath. Our session starts up in January, and I fully expect, and I've kind of been apprised by the Democratic Black Caucus, that they would like my veins and my guts and my kidneys. So, I don't usually go down without a fight. I'm a kid from Brooklyn, New York, so that's what I do. I fight back. It's inherent for me. I consider the bail community throughout the United States of America to be an extension of my family. So when they need help, if I can help them, I'm going to do it. I wasn't born to a rich family or anything like that, so I feel like if I've got a little change, I can always share half my sandwich with my family. As long as we can all eat, I'm good with that. So. I just feel like maybe this year, once the bloodbath starts up in New York, and I'm asking my fellow bondsmen throughout the United States for some help. If they can't afford to help monetarily, which I understand, then they can absolutely press the share button on Facebook and Twitter and all those forms of help are free. So I feel like everybody in our bail community and our bail family throughout the nation can help. It doesn't necessarily have to be with money.
You know, look, let me say there's a few things. One, I want to go to the money thing. The money thing is a tough thing, that's for sure. I've noticed that. I saw a letter come out recently out of Oklahoma, well thought out by a bondsman there, and but it's calling for money, and it has great solutions at the other end of it. Obviously, you and I both know that it costs money to get data, to sue, to litigate in any way. To be on the defensive side of litigation costs even more, but the money thing is definitely an issue, and we have to figure out how to solve that in bail. We have to figure out how to make sure that the money is going in a streamlined, in the most efficient and effective way. But you said something else that's been interesting me for a while, and I just desperately want other people's opinion on this. That you said the Democratic Black Caucus is out to get you, or they don't want you to be successful in your message. And I got to ask, I am a Pennsylvania-born, Michigan-raised, lived in the Deep South for 25 years guy. And I got to ask, how the hell does Martin Luther King get out without private choice? How can America's Black Caucus be against private choice and the protection of innocent till proven guilty? Are you an American bail agent facing bail reform in your community? Are you lost and not sure what to do? Do you feel doom and gloom all around? Does it feel like maybe these groups might just win this discussion? Well, know this, there's no way. The nbaa.us radio network, the Bail Agents Radio Network, is dedicated to fighting bail reform and informing the public that those pretty words aren't what they seem to be. nbaa.us radio is the National Bail Agents Association radio network. We are here to provide information, education, and communication, both with our industry, the criminal justice system, and even the general public itself. nbaa.us radio. Join us, follow us. Thank you very much. How can America's Black Caucus be against private choice and the protection of innocent till proven guilty?
Well, I mean, I think that, from my perspective, because I've done so much politicking, if you will, I think that the answer from my side of the fence is pretty simplistic. It's big money special interest. So there's really no more Democratic Party. It's kind of these liberal, progressive spaceship guys. And they've really gotten into some serious donations by these kind of Soros-funded left-wing groups. And
wait, so you're saying
really
common sense?
Their own rhetoric. It's like I always tell people: if I tell you every single day that you have green hair, one day you're going to wake up and your hair is going to be green.
Wait, so you're saying common sense is gone, and we're just about agendas now? It doesn't have. Because if you take away private choice and it's only the government that chooses your freedom, if preventative detention replaces the queen of bail, then how does Weed Man get out? And I just watched all the videos today about Weed Man, and I'm learning about Weed Man today. How that's indicative of what the result of bail reform will be. Preventative detention. Michelle, how does America stand to hold on to its freedom if you are gone? To hell with the agendas.
Don't. I mean, the simple answer is that they don't. But what happens with, inner city leadership, and I can say this from a very full plate because I'm a Cuban American woman, so even though my skin sometimes in the winter is pretty white, in the summertime you wouldn't know that I am. But nevertheless, what happens with, these leaders, these inner city kind of Black Caucus and Latino Caucus leaders, is that it's enough for the inner city communities to just simply believe whatever they say because they feel, the majority of them feel like, well, they look like me, they have my best interest at heart, whatever they say is what I'm going to do. The majority of black communities, especially, I mean, I'm sure in Louisiana too, but New York City, are dependent on the government. So they kind of like the idea, of welfare, public housing, and all of the above.
I get that, but that's if they understand, I guess if they understand bail reform. But do they understand preventative detention? Because bail reform certainly addresses what you're suggesting, but that's, you and I both know from being on the inside, that that's not what's in the pudding. I mean, when they get to the pudding, they find preventative detention. What can bail do to message this? Because this seems to be the breakdown, the lack of understanding that the true core want here, you said it, the agenda is preventative detention.
Well, I mean, it's really simple what bail can do. It's almost so simple that it's stupid, okay? I'll give you an example. The two words that you're using right now, preventative detention, are two words that most people that are blue-collar or that are living in public housing, they don't even understand what that means, Matt. You know what? God bless them. They don't need to. My dad wouldn't have understood really what that meant. He was a shoe salesman.
Hey, you know what?
He wouldn't have understood what that terminology meant.
Let me just say this.
What we need to do at bail.
Let me throw one thing in real quick.
To kind of
on preventative detention, Michelle, on preventative detention, this is a term that we were taught in the 80s and the 90s in the military, and then again into the 2000s as it relates to holding Muslim detainees during the war that we considered radicals. What's shocking to a military man like myself is to see this word being used by Color of Change in America as a replacement for the Queen of New York. Are you an American bail agent facing bail reform in your community? Are you lost and not sure what to do? Do you feel doom and gloom all around? Does it feel like maybe these groups might just win this discussion? Well, know this, there's no way. The nbaa.us radio network, the Bail Agents Radio Network, is dedicated to fighting bail reform and informing the public that those pretty words aren't what they seem to be. nbaa.us radio is the National Bail Agents Association radio network. We are here to provide information, education, and communication, both with our industry, the criminal justice system, and even the general public itself. nbaa.us radio. Join us, follow us. Thank you very much.
Is if somebody would simply make a flyer, let's just say, for example, and define preventative detention means this, A, B, C, D, and hang it and pass it out in every public housing project. This is what bail reform means, and this is what preventative detention means. It means the government is going to own you. It means that if you're accused of rape, you will no longer be entitled to bail. If you explain that to people of color, Latino people and black people, they'll understand that. But they won't understand preventative detention, and they won't understand all this hoopla, bail reform. They don't even understand what the hell that means.
Well, that's why we use the word bail reform, because it makes it seem promising and potentially rewarding to be part of. And I think you're completely correct that most people, not just people of color, not just poor people, but very few people understand the word preventative detention or what it means. But I guess my question to you is, it's easy enough to explain its definition. It's easy enough to redefine bail reform and define it as preventative detention and use that message to educate the community. Am I wrong, or?
No, I think you're 100% right, and I think that there are people that live in these communities that have the mentors and the elders that they kind of look to, and if you start going to those community leaders and saying, hey, by the way, I know that your congressman or your senator or your assemblyman told you that this is what bail reform is going to be, but let me just explain to you that this is what bail reform is going to be.
Bail reform, let me ask you a question. Let me put it to you this way. This is my Martin Luther King effect, in my opinion, because, obviously we'll never have another person like Martin Luther King, but we might have another reason. And here's my example. You have a person who may not be... New Jersey has extremely strict laws as it relates to magazines for weapons. Is that correct? New York and New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So a person like me who's from here in the Honey Island Swamp, deep south Louisiana, I literally, no joke, no exaggeration, could strap an AK-47 to the hood of my car. Loaded. Okay? Smart or not, it's irrelevant. I could do it and it would be illegal. And I could do that with a 100-round drum. Okay? And it's completely legal. But if I got caught in New York or New Jersey, under the guidelines set forth by the New Jersey Constitutional Amendment, a judge could determine me to be a risk beyond just what the Arnold PSA says. He could ignore the low risk of the PSA, because I would be low risk, just like any other rapist or hardened criminal that goes through that program. Me and you, we would be low risk as well. It's not just the hardcore criminals that are low risk. But what I would do is I would be held based on the judge's perceived risk, because you see, the judge, he can say, I can't hold you because I don't see a risk, so you got to go. Goodbye. Or, hey, I see this risk even beyond the risk assessment, so I'm going to impose preventative detention. Now, today, it's brand new, and we don't want to see any of this happen, so everybody's going to kind of play by the crazy rules, and they're going to let everybody go. But as this thing progresses, couldn't I be held simply because the judge doesn't like me, because I'm from Louisiana, because I had this big clip of magazine, empty, no bullets, no gun, just an empty magazine that I forgot to take out of my car? Couldn't he potentially call me a flight risk and keep me without bail?
100%. Of course he could. But
that scares the hell out of me. I don't have to be poor to be scared of that. I don't have to be poor or Latino or of color. I could just be a flat-out American, and that would scare the living daylights out of me. And what can bail do to make sure that every American understands that?
Matt, it's a real uphill battle, because what people generally don't understand is that we are not, and what bail doesn't understand, really, which is disheartening, is we are not fighting one fight. This is a multi-layered fight. This is a multi-layered war. And here in New York, we have an additional war. We have something called bail funds. And they've even made a flyer kind of thing where you can go online. It's kind of like a tutorial on how to set up your own bail fund. And one of the reasons why the Dems are so pissed at me was because I said, NISBA, our state association, I'm the president of it, floated 2 bills this session, and they're violently pissed about it. And one bill says, you can have a charitable bail fund bail, but you have to prove that you're indigent. Much like when you walk into the food stamp office, you can't be a millionaire and get some damn food stamps.
I don't
understand.
That was our
bill number 1, and then bill number 2 said, well, you can get yourself one of these here charitable bails, but you can't be a recidivist.
Wait. Explain charitable bail.
That just sent them over the edge. Just about jumped off the Victorino Bridge behind that. They got in my face behind that. They thought I was going to back down.
I don't understand. Explain charitable bail. What is charitable bail? Can you explain that?
It's a bail fund where these rich hedge fund guys, they come in and they deposit, like, I don't know, $500,000 or whatever, and they think that, you're a good candidate for a free bail. So let's say you have, it only goes up to $2,000, which this year they tried to float a bill to increase it to $5,000, and our association and our lobbyists and a few others shut it down. And they're pissed at me for that too. But anyway, I could care less. But they pay your bail in cash. and you have to report by their standards and whatnot. And,
So they're acting as a surety.
They deem you indigent, but they deem you indigent. There's no indigent scale. In other words, they call it charitable bail. And when I was sat with them in their office and they got into my face so much so that one of them got spit on my face, I said to him, did you ever look up the word charitable bail in Black's Law Dictionary? I mean, charitable, not charitable. The word charitable inherently means you need something. You need a benefit. So in order to get a benefit, you have to prove that you need a benefit. Wouldn't you want your constituents' tax dollars and to go somewhere else, maybe to roads or schools or the elderly or,
So they're
but
taking...
they're so stuck on this.
Wait. So they're taking...
They're stuck on it.
They're taking money and they're putting it in a fund and they're calling it a charitable bail fund. And then what? You apply for them to give you the money? Does the family apply? Is it?
They sit their asses right there in the arraignment court, and they wait for a good candidate to come up, and they go, okay, this kid looks good. He's got a $500 bail or a $1,000 bail. Doesn't look like he's going to warrant. Okay, he looks like I think he's poor. He says he's poor. We're going to pay his bail.
So they just, they do? How many do you think? 1 out of 100? 1 out of 10?
They do a couple hundred a year, and now they want to do more, and they also want to increase their bottom line. They want to be in direct competition with us. They want to put private bail out of business. But
so they just want to keep paying everybody's bail?
They met the redhead the other day, though.
So they just want to keep paying everybody's bail? I mean, I don't. What is the benefit to them?
They pay everybody's bail, and then at the next court date, they get rid of the case. So the statistics look really good.
What's the benefit to them? They just trying to help, or they're part of the? I don't understand.
Benefit for them. Yeah, I mean the jury's still out on what's the benefit for them.
Is it just another method?
Put me out of business.
I mean, is it just another method to try to undermine the accountable bail agent and stuff? Because you had said
100%.
Well, because what I've noticed in the last number of years is that it's a coordinated effort against bail that seems to come from a bunch of different stings. So, I mean, you get SPLC on one side, ACLU on another side, equal justice under law.
Southern poverty.
Right, and then, of course, ALEC leaves equal justice under law and goes and forms his own little group. And then, of course, the American Bar Association's always chiming up. But do you feel like it's coordinated across that spectrum?
Yes, I do, Matt. But these are the same groups that are throwing down statues. I'm just going to put it out there because you know me, I don't play around with words. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can believe whatever you want in America. You can believe whatever you want, but you can't take away people's constitutional rights, nor can you erase history. This is the United States of America. And these people are not Democrats. They're an embarrassment to the Democratic Party because I grew up as a Democrat. My parents are immigrants. I mean, my father's from Cuba. And, the Democratic Party was clearly defined. It's not the Democratic Party anymore. They're a bunch of psychos.
But if it's the Democrats, how do we explain Chris Christie and now Rand Paul?
Money. I'll tell you what. It is about money. Chris Christie,
Rand Paul?
that bastard, wanted to be the president of the United States of America. He didn't have enough money to do it. They came around and they said, well, tell you what, we want bail reform. How much money do you need to become the president of these here United States of America? He probably needs about $20 million to get his shit off the ground. So what do you think they gave him?
I'm not sure anybody had enough.
He gave them bail reform.
I'm not sure anybody had enough money this year.
Every single day.
I'm not sure anybody had enough money this year. All right, so look, so we have California, you have a Senate Bill 10. You have New Mexico, which is
it seems like it might be shelved.
It seems like it, but Rob Bonta and
Pittsburgh.
I just lost her name, Kamala Harris, and others, Hertzberg. These guys aren't going to slow down. They're going to continue because I'm sure, like you said, it probably has a lot to do with money being brought into their campaign. They have a lobbyist that's coming after them and telling them. Well, but my question is, I've seen, because, there's some research that would tell you that the Laura and John Arnold Foundation are a conservative group. And my concern, my concern is that it might not just be one side or the other anymore. I think that what we have, again, there's, like you said, there's so many things happening at once, it's almost hard to concentrate. But my question, I guess, to bail is there freedom in America if the American bail agent is not there? Are you an American bail agent facing bail reform in your community? Are you lost and not sure what to do? Do you feel doom and gloom all around? Does it feel like maybe these groups might just win this discussion? Well, know this, there's no way. The nbaa.us radio network, the Bail Agents Radio Network, is dedicated to fighting bail reform and informing the public that those pretty words aren't what they seem to be. nbaa.us radio is the National Bail Agents Association radio network. We are here to provide information, education, and communication, both with our industry, the criminal justice system, and even the general public itself. nbaa.us radio. Join us, follow us. Thank you very much. And my concern, my concern is that it might not just be one side or the other anymore. I think that what we have, again, there's, like you said, there's so many things happening at once, it's almost hard to concentrate. But my question, I guess, to bail is there freedom in America if the American bail agent is not there?
No, absolutely not. Think about it this way. If you wanted to go and buy, a carburetor for your car, and you couldn't go to 6 carburetor shops, you only could go to the government carburetor shop. Is that American? You done put all the carburetor guys out of business so that the government can control the carburetor. It's the same thing with bail, except it's much more dangerous to public safety when you take mama and auntie and grandma out of the equation and you let a computer make a decision about bail. It is unheard of. It's unfathomable. The effect, since Jersey put this into place in January, the crime rate has rocketed over 13%. You have police chiefs going around to people's doors going, lock your doors, I can no longer protect you.
I'm going to say, from my experience, preventative detention is something that is the norm in Europe. It was the norm in the American colonies prior to the Revolution. And one of the things, and this was an old king's trick, that when you were a person of power, you had your little followers and you were the ruling class, and the ruling class would have their properties and their valuables and all of that. But if you ever fell out of favor with the ruling class, or if somebody ever overthrew the ruling class, the number one way to make you suffer would be to take your property. The reason that could happen, let's just say the government, in England, or during those times, or even today, accused you of a crime, you would have to forfeit your property as security. At any time, if the court feels like you have violated, it could keep that security and turning you back into basically a serf. So when America founded its freedom, innocent until proven guilty, part of its Bill of Rights and Freedoms Constitution, when it established the one sentence that is the Eighth Amendment, when it made the statements that, the people's law would rule, Did it intend for private choice to be included? Because as I see it, the one thing that separates us from the rest of the world when it comes to our innocent until proven guilty is private choice. And that private choice does not just mean you, Michelle. It means mom putting up her house, but doing it through a third party, not the government. Because you never want the government to have some kind of enticement to take your property, because it could crush you. Go ahead.
Absolutely, that's good eminent domain. I mean, the government gets involved in anything as an abundance failure. I mean, the government is just, it's a mess. What Donald Trump inherited is the biggest mess going. It's almost embarrassing to be American at this point, to be honest with you. And I hate to say that because I bleed red, white, and blue. I'm very proud to be American, but not proud to be American, I don't think, at this time in history. But I will say that taking away the private option from communities across the nation is probably one of the biggest mistakes available. I mean, that's being proffered. And what the reason why initially I brought up people of color and Latino people is because the rhetoric and the salability of the rhetoric is being spewed at these communities. In other words, it's not being spewed at middle America, at the white people. It's being spewed at the lower income levels, saying, hey, you know what, these bad police officers, these bad judges, these horrible bail bond people, they're the bad people. They're the ones. We have an alternative. It's called free bail. We know that you're poor, so it's a great thing. Just vote for it. And you know what? When you say it that way, people are going to go, oh, yeah, that's great. I want that. I need that.
Well, I can't disagree with that. And that's been... Okay, so just a note that I have written to myself from earlier. We were talking about mass definitions. I mean, talking and having a common language. Words like pretrial. That's something, I mean, from my own experience in this debate, in this long conversation, there's certain people want you to refer to them as pretrial. And I've always thought, well, wait a minute, I'm pretrial. Michelle, you're pretrial. Pretrial is a position in court.
100% right, Matt.
Huh?
That's accurate. You're right.
Right. So, I mean, for them to want to force us into giving up a position that we share with them, look, they may be pretrial. I can't argue that. They've put themselves in that position. I think in some ways bail has let them there, but we're going to have that conversation one day. But right now, I want to ask you something politically, because I know we talked about maybe this could be, and I agree with you. The Democrats seem to have this as a marching order. If you're a Democrat, you just need to follow along, don't question. I am curious how, I mean, I'm not curious how Christie's involved. I've always considered him a Democrat, but Rand Paul confuses me. That one confuses me, but going to the other side, going to what I see, because like you, I'm a 25-year veteran of pretrial services. But I noticed in the last 8 years, prior to President Trump, what I noticed was a Department of Justice that seemed hell-bent on undermining accountability. It seemed like it was from everything from hating the police, which I did not understand. I've never felt so bad for my police officer friends, because you know and I know, we all know a lot of police officers. So I felt so bad for it. And then,
but a lot of them were in my family.
You know, 3 of those police officers were killed less than an hour from me. So, and I'm in Baton Rouge weekly. So, I mean, to have it hit so close to home and to realize that, you know, that was out of just pure fomenting hate, and I'd never seen that from my federal government before. I've never seen that before. But something has caught something caught my eye over the last few months over President Trump's immigration thing. And there was an issue over him threatening sanctuary cities. New Orleans is a sanctuary city. The Department of Justice said that they would revoke grant money from any city that continued to be a sanctuary city. And everybody had this huge outcry. But Michelle, in 2016, in 2015, in fact, Loretta Lynch, the Department of Justice Attorney General, put out a letter to first responders, not just police, not just criminal justice, but to fire departments, to ambulance service, to any type of first responder. And in that letter, she flat out told them, you will support criminal justice reforms, including bail reform, or we will take your federal grant money away. So they threatened fire departments money if they did not support basically things that included destroying your industry. Is that fair? Is that what we should expect from our DOJ?
I mean, that's mafia. That's mafia style right there. I mean, that's total strong arm mafia right there. And that's what he was. That's what Obama was.
Is there a difference?
It was hell bent.
Well, then this is a tough question then. Is there a difference between then what Lynch did to threaten first responders' money if they didn't get involved with something that they have nothing to do with, like bail reform? Is there a difference between that and Trump, President Trump and his DOJ threatening cities federal dollars over illegal immigration laws? Is there a difference?
Yeah, there's a very big difference. The biggest difference is two words: common sense.
I can't disagree.
You have to look at your first responders all over the United States of America and yield to what they're telling you. If you're a leader, you're a senator, you're a president, and your first responders are telling you, sir, this is what's working in our community, A, B, C, D, and E. You have to listen to them. They're the ones on the front line. So what Trump is doing is he's listening. Obama dictated. Trump is listening. And there's a big difference. And of course he's going to be hated for it. But you know what? I get that. Because the more successful you are and the more controversial you are, the more people are going to hate you. As many people in this industry that love me or like me, that's as many that hate my guts. Because I'm always going to tell you what it's like every single day.
Well, I will say this. What I picture as a difference between these two, what strikes me is how it's not okay for President Trump and his administration to threaten DOJ dollars, grant dollars, while it is okay for President Obama's administration through Lynch to do it. And when you look at the two threats, Trump threatens a city's immigration-style money if they don't stop making illegal immigration law. Lynch threatens fire department money if they don't get on board with the destruction, essentially, the destruction of accountability in every city in America. And I say that not just because of bail. These movements include no more fines and fees. Michelle, how can a city run? How can society run if nobody has to pay the price? Can they run without anybody having to pay the price ever?
Let me tell you something. Do you know how many warrants were just listed here in New York City? 600,000. Under fascist, New York City has its own government. It's called the New York City Council. It's run by the bozo, de Blasio, and his fascist city speaker, Speaker Mark Viverito. She's, please, it's surreal what goes on. And you know what? God bless our president, because his task in front of him is monumental. I will say this. It is disappointing to me as a bail agent. It's disappointing to me as an industry leader that we haven't been brought to the table yet. I mean, that is really disappointing to me, because the public safety of our nation is in grave danger. If you get rid of private jail, who's going to work 24 hours a day while everybody's sleeping? Me and you are hunting warrants. And we're not just hunting warranted people on a $100,000 bail. I mean, if you warrant on one of my cases on a $1,000 bail, I'm coming for you. Police departments don't do that. They don't have the manpower in New York City to do it. They don't have the wherewithal. They certainly don't have the respect for our mayor. Thank God we have a new mayor running, and hopefully she's going to take take City Hall, Nicole Maliotakis, and I strongly support her. But, you know, we have really big problems in the United States of America with what Obama and his people, Lynch and Eric Holder and all these morons, have left us with.
Well, you know, I can agree with you on a couple of things. But the public is seriously confused. But that's our job. We have to fix that. That's not going to happen any other way. The people that are messaging have deliberately taken words like bail reform. And then they actually, I know from experience, they actually whiteboard and plan for people like us coming out and say, we hate bail reform, be against it. See, nobody likes change. Them poor greedy bondsmen don't like change. So it was part of their methodology to create catchwords so we could hate those catchwords and they could make it about us hating their catchwords. So what I always like to do is just change the words and not argue about the words. Just change them. Let them have, you know what, it's not about they can have bail reform. I just don't call it that. I think it's public, it is preventative detention. It is the destruction of freedom. So I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you a couple of questions. Does innocent until proven guilty exist without private choice? Are you an American bail agent facing bail reform in your community? Are you lost and not sure what to do? Do you feel doom and gloom all around? Does it feel like maybe these groups might just win this discussion? Well, know this. There's no way. The nbaa.us radio network, the Bail Agents Radio Network, is dedicated to fighting bail reform and informing the public that those pretty words aren't what they seem to be. nbaa.us radio is the National Bail Agents Association radio network. We are here to provide information, education, and communication, both with our industry, the criminal justice system, and even the general public itself. nbaa.us radio. Join us, follow us. Thank you very much. Does innocent until proven guilty exist without private choice?
Absolutely not. How could it?
Why?
How could it? It's like oil and water. How could it?
Why? How can it not? How can it not? How can America, how can any people not live with preventative detention? I mean, come on, shouldn't we just, if they're ugly and bad, just throw them in jail? I mean, let everybody else go.
Yeah, I mean, look at this guy. Look at this guy, New Jersey weed man. I mean, he should be entitled to a bond. I mean, what did he do? He had 97,000 pounds of weed or whatever it is. Who cares? Because they want to legalize weed anyway. That's one of their biggest agendas in life is to legalize weed. So somebody's selling it. Okay, that's what he does.
So this wasn't his first time around the block. This wasn't his first time around the block.
No, he's been selling weed for 100 years, this guy.
So he ends up,
but what happens with this guy is he has a big mouth.
So he ends up rolling through the system regular. So he rolls through the system regular. Yeah. But he can no longer be trusted because if you just threw the door open, he would never handle his case, right?
Well, if he were let out of jail, and I'm willing to put up $1 million bond for him tomorrow.
Why would you have to?
I wish I could.
Why would anybody have to? I mean,
doesn't accept bail bonds.
Wait, so let me ask you a question. Let me be Joe guy on the street. So he's in jail. He broke the law. I get it. He's broken the law like this before. It's enough to where now people got to start making him pay for what he's doing. So he needs some supervision. Right. So why can't he just bond out? Why can't he just make a bond? I mean, for God's sakes, he's free to make a bond, right? America does let our people go, right? The guy's not guilty.
He's no longer free to make a bond.
But he didn't kill anybody. He didn't rape a 6-year-old.
Trickery.
So, I mean, he didn't rape anybody. He didn't kill anybody. He just...
Nope.
He didn't steal a horse. He just...
But they changed the Jersey State Constitution.
How can anybody change a Constitution?
A ballot of trickery.
How can you change the Constitution to where they can keep him? That doesn't... How I mean,
Well,
he's done this before. He's obviously handled his cases. I'm sure he's bonded out before. What do the bondsmen say? Are they upset? Of course they're upset.
They're out of business. Of course they're upset, you know.
It just doesn't make any sense
anymore, but it makes no sense. But what Christie did was he put up a little question on the ballot, and it said, do you want bad people to go to jail? Check here. It's going to change the Constitution, but do you want bad people to go to jail? So people from both aisles, regardless of ideologies, of course they want bad people to go to jail. So they checked it. And by virtue of checking it, if you are now charged with a high crime in the state of New Jersey, you are no longer constitutionally entitled to bail.
So what you're saying is when the constitutional amendment was put on the ballot, they put their paragraph or so that described the amendment, and that paragraph did no justice to the truth. It just made everybody feel warm and fuzzy, and it created an environment where people elected to go that way 70%. And at the end of the day, what they got was preventative detention. Michelle, I believe in my heart, and I love the bail bonds industry to death, because I think the bail bonds industry is the difference between us and the rest of the world. Just so it's way bigger than your profits. It's way bigger than the profits of anybody that would ever listen to this program. It has to do with I've been all over the world. The only place in the world I could ever bond out of jail is America. The difference in America is that bondsman, and what that means is no matter what I do, I'm innocent until proven guilty here. That doesn't exist anywhere in the world. And if you've ever been put in the back of a police car in a foreign country, innocent until proven guilty is an important measure to have. And when you don't have it in a country like Spain, you might want to start to reconsider taking it away in a country like America. So the bail bond industry needs to start to educate the public in what preventative detention means and what it does, because it destroys America. And it's that simple. You don't need guns. You don't need...
The only thing is we need to do it in a way that the average American understands.
Well, you don't need Antifa. You don't need Nazis. You don't need the KKK. You don't need black. You don't need Jews. You don't need Catholics. You simply need preventative detention. And America is no more. So while we're fighting this little civil war on the news, behind the scenes, people like Michelle Esqunazi are fighting to protect what is basically the difference between us and the rest of the world, our constitutional protection to freedom, our constitutional protection to private property, our constitutional protection to our voice. Because if you take away private choice, you lose all the above. Because the only person that's in your path between you and the door to freedom now is Uncle Sam. And Uncle Sam ain't so pretty when he's holding the keys to your jail cell. Michelle, thank you. And just one thing real quick.
Thank you, Matt. It's always great talking to you. And God bless you, and God bless your family. God bless America. Thank you so much, Matt.
Hey, this radio network is doing well. Bail is listening. I think that Bail can use this tool. They can listen to people like you, and we can take information and get it out there, and we can start to have people say the right things, because this is way bigger than just Weed Man or some guy stuck in a New Jersey jail. This is so much bigger than just a Keen Scott shooting 19 people at a Mother's Day parade. We really have to get it together. As a military guy, as a fire commissioner, as a family, I'm a father of 8 children. I mean, you know me, Michelle, I know you. We love our businesses, we love our families, but we have to do what we have to do to save this country, because if they ever take away bail, there is no freedom in this country. I promise you, we lose everything without private choice. So thank you, and I will talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Matt.
All right, bye, Michelle.
Thanks.
All right, we have been listening to Michelle Esqunazi. She is the queen of bail. And I'm going to add before we go here that Michelle is a person who I have met recently in this whole conversation about bail reform. For me, it wasn't bail reform when I first started. For me, it was the simple thing called the Vera Institute. And the Vera Institute was this group led by this little fella by the name of John Wool. And by the way, I realized that his little sidekick, Lisa Simpson, is now out in New Mexico. So my New Mexico listeners, I'm familiar with her. I'm familiar with the advisor to your group out there in New Mexico. It would be nice to get reacquainted with Miss Simpson. So anyway, when I started in this endeavor 11 years ago, it was just Vera, and it was just this group that came in and promised the stars and the moon and unicorns and all kinds of crazy stuff. And for me, I don't know. I was introduced in the hallway of the city chamber by the assistant district attorney, who is a friend, and it's not a friend for any other reason that he's a good lawyer and he takes my money whenever he feels like it, because that's what happens in bail. You see, when you don't do what you're supposed to do, the district attorney gets your money, and that's the guy that just happens to be the one that gets my checks regular. So, he introduced me to this John Wolf fella, and I got, look, I'm all for fair, I'm all for righteous, I'm all for equal. Bail reform is none of the above. And whatever the political agenda is, Michelle says that it has nothing to do with common sense, that it's pure agenda. And, she's in New York. I mean, more than any other person on the planet, Michelle Esquinazi is going to have her thumb right on the heartbeat of this thing, because, whatever comes out of crazy New York affects us all. And you heard her. She said she's been a Democrat her whole life. I assume she voted Trump by some of the other things she said. I can say this: we cannot afford for New York to accept this. New York cannot do this. This is not freedom. If a state like New York eliminates freedom so quickly, does anybody understand the position we're in? The American bail agent is all that stands between innocent until proven guilty and the end of what we have been. And nobody realizes this because we are so obscure. We have to be more than just a television program. We have to be more than just a caricature created by people that don't like us, or by Hollywood. We have to be very professional. We have to be understanding of the facts and the truth. And people like Michelle and other people like her, there's a lot we're going to be interviewing over the next coming days and weeks. And I wanted to do Michelle's interview early because Michelle has been a diehard supporter of everything bail everywhere. This woman, I don't know how she ain't gray. I don't know how she's not bald. I don't know how she's not broke. So with that said, I'm gonna say this. Michelle has agreed to do a regular show for us, and we're looking forward to that. I've suggested to her she name it Queen's Court. I mean, hey, I love the idea, but it's her show, it's her call, and I look forward to it, and it's up to her when she wants it, how long she wants it, because I believe Michelle could talk to people on the street and record that and send it to us, and we could put that on here every single day, every single week, whatever she wants. And I think that would be important for us all to listen to, because she can certainly keep us informed as to what's going on in New York City. Because as New York goes, the rest of this country goes. And to see California come so close with SB 10 and other movements, but there's some strong people out there fighting. We have to have this type of communication as a group. Chris Blaylock from New Jersey has agreed to do the same, to be a part of a regular show. So I want to thank Michelle. I want to thank you for listening. This is the nbaa.us radio network. This is the network of the American Bail Agent. Thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
to my birth, unaware of my worth, benign and absurd, silent and unlearned. I fell down to the earth. I was cursed and immersed, but I rose up from the dirt. Free, I am a man in a no man's land, and a native son of my sovereignty. I'm forming a line as I'm making a stand, and I will not comply, disperse or disband, child, because I am a man. Yeah. You can't take what I am originally. You can't bind and amend the powers that be. 'Cause I believe that I'm led, and I'm led to believe that I was commanded to be free. Like I'm a man in a no man's land, and a native son of my sovereignty. I'm forming a line and I'm making a stand, and I will not comply, disperse or disband, child, because I am a man. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. I'm free as a bird on a buffalo's back, always ready to ride when I'm under attack. I was handed the truth, now I'm faced with the facts, and I'm willing to fight for a living. So I'm forming a line, that's right, I'm making a stand, and I will not comply, disperse or disband. I may be a man in a no man's land, but I'm native son of my sovereign. I guess I am a man.
Are you an American bail agent facing bail reform in your community? Are you lost and not sure what to do? Do you feel doom and gloom all around? Does it feel like maybe these groups might just win this discussion? Well, know this, there's no way. The nbaa.us radio network, the Bail Agents Radio Network, is dedicated to fighting bail reform and informing the public that those pretty words aren't what they seem to be. nbaa.us radio is the National Bail Agents Association radio network. We are here to provide information, education, and communication, both with our industry, the criminal justice system, and even the general public itself. nbaa.us radio. Join us, follow us. Thank you very much.